Hello, welcome to the Finnegan Fish House channel, aka my small suburban home where I've been evolving to be a better human on earth. One of the major ways I'm doing that is by composting the waste my family and I produce at home in my tiny backyard. To do this, I'm gathering up all the cardboard boxes I can literally find, my bokashi buckets, some really great compost, and waste from our aquariums to jumpstart an in-ground covered compost bin. After doing tons of research, I learned that carbon-rich sources and an abundance of microbes are key to a nearly odorless compost bin. I've always been hesitant to compost here because I didn't want to attract rodents, roaches, and flies in such a small space. Plus, I wanted to be respectful to the fact that I'm sure my neighbors would not appreciate funky odors while trying to enjoy their own yards. The main abundant source of microbes in this entire process is created from an anaerobic food waste fermentation process called bokashi composting. Now, normally, without this process, rotting, decomposing, and sometimes putrefaction of food is what leads to the stinky odors we often associate with compost. Bokashi, however, eliminates that stank factor as our food and pet waste gets pickled in oxygen-free buckets with lots of carbon-rich inputs. The process pre-digests the food so that when we add it to a compost bin with more carbon, in this case I'm using cardboard, and some already finished compost, the booze blend aged cow manure, I'm left with a product that smells pickled more than poopy. After gardening and studying sustainable ag for years, I'm convinced layers of biodiversity in a lasagna-like fashion are key to building healthy ecosystems. We have a video on our channel that shows how to make a lasagna-style garden bed to cost-efficiently fill raised garden beds, and I saw firsthand that this method creates healthier plants with heightened abilities to resist disease and pests. In this very same way, I am creating compost in a covered compost bin to better manage the waste I contribute to landfills, save costs on compost in the future, and build beneficial macro and micro life forms for a healthier ecosystem in my small suburban backyard. Food for thought: when you throw away food in the trash, the waste does not decompose and give back to the soil as it does in a compost setting. This is because waste we create putrefies in trash bags that are non-biodegradable, which ultimately creates the production and release of methane gas into the atmosphere, further contributing to global warming. Composting, on the other hand, feeds the soil, which is a living organism of millions of living organisms that feed on our waste and help sequester carbon, which helps minimize the effects of global warming overall. So setting up an odor-free compost bin filled with tons of living organisms requires you to use great finished compost in the beginning so that you inoculate your bokashi compost and carbon sources with even more life than what you're actually inputting into the system to begin with. Dried leaves are another great carbon source to use and offer indigenous microbes for your compost. Just like how you want to add layers of carbon and nitrogen to your garden beds and compost bins, you want to do the same in your bokashi buckets. I'll link a video at the end of this one that includes a list of what a nitrogen source is versus a carbon source to help, but carbon is basically dehydrated plant material like paper products, and nitrogen is basically poops and fresh plants. I recommend 2 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen inputs when you're doing your compost bin, but aim for 50-50 ratio in my bokashi buckets. Bokashi bins are fuel for biodynamic compost, as well as the key to an odorless organic compost bin. The catalyst for this anaerobic fermentation process in the bokashi bins is called bokashi bran, and preferential to bokashi by SD Microbes. This brand is made from recycled organic beer grains from a veteran-owned brewery in San Diego, which is local to me. SD Microbes upcycles the beer grains by mixing the beer byproduct with red flaky wheat bran, which is then in turn inoculated with lactic acid bacteria serum or LABs. On top of that, they also add azomite trace minerals, fermented comfrey and beetroot juices, as well as unsulfured molasses. The inoculated beneficial microbes in the bokashi thrive in acidic anaerobic conditions that break down waste inputs way faster than what you could achieve in a traditional hot compost pile. Bokashi compost is also great because you can use all the kitchen waste you produce in a composting system, including things like meat, dairy, and oily products that would normally not be allowed at all in a hot compost pile. So I used up all the food scraps I have, and as you can see, it's not filled up to the top, so I'll just put the lid on this and store it until I'm ready to top it off. And at that point, when I fill it up to the top next time, that's when I'll start the official fermentation process for 2 to 4 weeks. Alright, so this is what it looks like. This bottom one is completely full and done. This one's waiting for a top off. And then I have these 2 bins down here waiting and ready to be filled. As always, thank you so much for watching. We invite you into our home by clicking that subscribe button down below. Peace and love to all.